In this Helldivers 2 video, we're going to be discussing some of the most underrated weapons versus the Rupture strain of bugs on the Terminid front. This information is sourced from helldive.live. This is basically a pretty popular site now that gives us information of what people are using in their particular loadouts. This is not a massive sample size, but it's large enough in my opinion to get a good understanding of what people are actually bringing in their loadouts, and a lot of these things actually surprised me quite a bit, which is why I wanted to make this video. So we're going to be going over not only primary weapons, but secondary weapons and support weapons, because this is going to create our list of 11 total weapons that have less than 3% usage or lower versus the Rupture bugs, which again, some of these are not really too surprising, but a couple of these in here are very surprising. So I'm going to break those down separately as we're going through the video. But anyways, we got a lot to talk about. Let's do it. At number 11 is going to be the autocannon at 2.9% usage. This one sadly is not surprising because the Rupture exists and it's much easier to wield, and it is a primary weapon, so you can actually use other support weapons and things of that nature. But if you objectively look at the autocannon, it offers the same type of shrapnel damage as the Rupture with a higher magazine, and you don't have to actually rebolt the weapon every time you shoot it, similar to the Rupture. So it does have its overall use cases, but the biggest things against this are the fact that it requires a backpack, which backpacks in my opinion are premium versus this faction. Supply pack is great, some of the rover options are great, and having to run a backpack is quite annoying. And then also the fact that it does require you to crouch reload is something that is also very hindering with this weapon. So I can understand why people don't want to run it, but seriously, if you're running a primary weapon and you're trying to think of a good support weapon to run with that primary weapon, a lot of times the autocannon is going to be great because you're basically getting the Rupture plus whatever your favorite primary weapon you want to run in that case is going to be. At number 10 is going to be the crossbow at 2.8%. This weapon is sadly powercraft again by things like the Rupture, even the GL and some other weapons like that are quite overshadowing this weapon, but this thing offers a lot of utility, a lot more than people think. Not only is this weapon just as strong, if not stronger than a lot of those weapons in the explosive category, it's got a lot of great ammo economy because you get a ton of bolts with this thing. Yes, you only get 5 shots per clip, but at the same time, it reloads quick. And the fact it is one-handed, you can shoot this over your shoulder. It's got a ton of utility there. It's great for closing up a lot of bug holes at once as well. It's going to be great for unburrowing the Rupture bugs. It's going to be great for just dealing good damage overall to the spewer enemies or anything like that. So again, the crossbow is secretly sneaky underrated in my opinion versus the Rupture bugs, as well as you can run shields if you want to as well. Like the ballistic shield is actually pretty good on the hive worlds and things of that nature. So crossbow is actually a sneaky, very underrated weapon as well on this list. Next up is the Scorcher at 2.4%. This one breaks my heart because the Scorcher is one of my overall favorite weapons in the game, and I do understand that it does have ammo economy issues, so you need to lean into that more. Maybe run things like Siege Ready. You definitely probably need to run the supply pack. But again, I look at it as an opportunity to run other things because the Scorcher is great because it has a great overall damage economy. So it's going to do great damage against the Rupture bugs, killing them very quickly. It's going to unburrow them as well because it is an explosive type weapon, as well as again, it does offer good ammo economy if you run supply pack. If you're going to supply pack, you can run other things like the GL or other things that are ammo hungrier as well. And if you run Siege Ready with that, you get more ammo in general for any weapon you use. So again, I know that the Scorcher does have ammo issues and it's not necessarily the greatest weapon of all time versus the bugs, but personally, I've been absolutely loving running this thing versus the Rupture strains of bugs. I think it has quite a lot of utility, again, from being able to unburrow bugs, and it's going to do great damage against whatever it shoots, which is quite nice. And number 8 is going to be the Epoch at 1.6%. I'm not a huge fan of the Epoch. I'm just going to say that up front here. I don't dislike the weapon, but I just feel like it has an identity crisis. It's good at some things and not good at the things it probably should be. However, against the Rupture bugs, I'm not going to lie, this thing is a multi-kill machine. Because of the volume of bugs that we have on the hive worlds or just in any situation right now on the bug front, the Epoch has been absolutely fantastic. And it's been great for unburrowing multiple bugs at once because of its blast radius when you fully charge the thing, as well as just in general because of the 3 rounds. It's going to be great for general chaff clear. That's what I really like the Epoch for. It's not great at anti-tank. It can kill chargers. It can kill Biotitans, things like that. It's not great there. It is pretty good on the Dragon Roaches though. So if you're looking for a much easier to use weapon against the Dragon Roaches, you just have to shoot this generally at its face and it's going to do pretty good damage overall. So I will say it's there. So again, the Epoch is not my favorite weapon in the game, and I understand why it has such a low usage rate, but I do feel like it offers a little bit more utility than people are giving it credit for on the Rupture strains of bugs. So I'm going to bump it up there as well on my list for things I want to use a little bit more. And number 7 is going to be the double-edged sickle at 1.5%. This weapon is extremely strong against the Rupture strains of bugs for a couple of different reasons. Number one, it has light, medium, and heavy penetration, which means it's going to increase in damage the longer you shoot it, and also increase in penetration. And this is great because the Rupture strains of bugs basically are starting off at medium pen, going all the way up to heavy pen. So you're gonna be able to do some significant damage to these enemies, as well as it has unlimited ammo. Now, you do have the side effect of catching on fire while you're shooting this thing, but with the dragon roaches in play, you're gonna be wearing a flammable armor passive to give you the best mitigation of damage protection versus these things. So the idea is that if you're going to be running inflammable plus vitality booster, might as well just bring in the double-edged sickle as well, because the thing is like you're going to be taking less fire damage, and that's what the double-edged sickle does, is cause fire damage to you. So just use this because you have an unlimited weapon that does massive damage as you ramp it up in shooting. It's going to absolutely destroy enemies very quickly. So again, the double-edged sickle is very, very underrated in my opinion against these new strains of bugs, because you are going to be running, especially against the dragon roaches, the inflammable armor passive at a minimum, maybe even the desert stormer, which is going to give you some protection. Again, the heavy inflammable armor passive plus vitality is going to give you the mitigation of 0 with the double-edged sickle. So just keep that in mind if you want to use this thing. And number 6 is going to be the halt shotgun at 1%. Now, this is not my favorite shotgun in the world, I won't lie to you, but I can't deny its utility versus the Rupture bugs, primarily because of its 2 fire modes, meaning you got stun rounds and flechette rounds. Flechette rounds are medium penetration, the stun rounds are light, but the stun rounds do apply an effect that's going to help you significantly versus these bugs, which is very nice. And the flechette rounds are going to be able to finish off a lot of those bugs very quickly. So why don't a lot of people use this? It's because of the fumbliness of having to switch between the 2 fire modes so frequently, which is quite annoying. However, if you set up the macro for it, it makes it significantly easier. And the macro is really simple. I'm going to use mouse and keyboard as an example, but the similar principle works for controllers. So under settings, you're going to go under combat and go under the open weapon wheel and make sure that's set to press. Then you're also going to go under settings where it says weapon wheel right and set that to press also. Now what's going to happen is every time you press the R button, it's going to switch to the right. So every time you press the R button, it's going to switch to flechette, then it's going to go back to stun rounds. Very, very easy thing to do, so that way you don't have to worry about fumbling around with trying to scroll or do anything weird. A small editor's note here, one thing you're probably going to have to do is rebind your reload button to a different button. Mine is on my mouse, is one of my mouse buttons, so I just reload from there, and my R button is just specifically for using to toggle things and whatnot. So that's something you're probably going to have to do. It's just your choice on whether you want to do it or not. It's going to make some of the other weapons a little bit annoying, but again, as a simple principle, this does make the halt shotgun much easier to use. But seriously, the halt shotgun is actually quite underrated overall, and you should give it a shot if you haven't versus these Rupture bugs. Next up at number 5 is going to be the Reprimand, also at 1%. This is a hard-hitting SMG. It's one of the hardest-hitting weapons in the game at 125 damage per shot with medium penetration. So it's going to be quite beefy going against some of those beefier units like the Brood Commanders, the Spewer enemies, or even the new Hive Warriors and everything like that. So it is going to be quite strong there. The biggest reason why people avoid this is because of the limited capacity and also the fact that it doesn't have stagger, so it's not going to provide much utility from there. However, if you build around it with something like the Spear Gun or something else that does have a lot of stagger or good utility, it's going to be quite good for being able to deal with whatever situations are in front of you, because it's going to deal a lot of damage. I like to run this with a lot of gas, such as gas grenades or the Spear Gun or anything like that that's going to be able to confuse the enemies and allow me time to be able to hit the enemies in their weak spots and things like that. So the Reprimand is quite underrated, and it's actually pretty good against the Rupture bugs. Next up is going to be the Crisper at 0.9%. So the main issue for the Crisper is that it's in the same category as the Ultimatum and the Grenade Pistol, which offer far more utility because of the amount of charges that we have on the map at any time. The Ultimatum is almost mandatory in a lot of ways, and the Grenade Pistol is an easy second because it's just great for being able to destroy Spewer enemies very easily, and also will offer a lot of utility in the bug holes and things like that. So that's the main reason why the Crisper is so low, but if you have that all covered in other areas of your build, give the Crisper a shot. It's just great solid DPS because it operates very similar to the Flamethrower and definitely very similar to the Torture because that has the same damage profile. You just set the ground on fire, burn up enemies a little bit, and you're going to be able to get some solid DPS out of it. It's one of my favorite overall weapons in the game because it's just quick, easy DPS from your secondary items. So if you're covered in other areas and don't want to run Ultimatum and Grenade Pistol, give the Crisper a shot. It's very, very strong against the Rupture bugs. Next up at number 3 is going to be the Purifier at 0.9%. This one is just criminally underrated. It is one of the best weapons in the game. It's definitely top 5 versus the Rupture bugs. It offers similar clearing utility and splash damage of the Epoch, better overall ammo economy than the Scorcher, and it unburrows enemies very similar to the Scorcher and the Epoch. It's literally an amazing weapon versus the Rupture bugs. My main guess for why people don't use this is because of the charge up mechanic, because it does require you to slow it down just a little bit and have some distance, and it can kill you, but it also has the burst mode where you can burst down enemies really quickly by just shooting them without charging it up. So really, I don't quite understand why people don't bring this in more. I guess maybe they're more enticed by other things in the game, but seriously, the Purifier is outstanding against the Rupture bugs. It's definitely one of the best weapons in the game versus the Rupture bugs, and it shouldn't be this low on the list in my opinion. And number 2 is going to be the Torture at 0.8%. This is another very slept on weapon. It's not quite as slept on as the Purifier in my opinion, but it's pretty close. I mean, very similar to the Crisper. It's extremely good at just pure DPS. I particularly like to pair this with the Spear Gun because the Spear Gun has just been great for crowd control, unburrowing bugs, and just generally, it's just an incredible weapon versus any strain of bug right now. However, paired with the Torture, it's just extremely good. Basically, you're going to use a Spear Gun to shoot around gas, and you're going to just light the ground on fire, burn up enemies, killing them very quickly. The Torture is absolutely incredible versus just clearing the bugs. It's quite good. And then it's also very, very good against the Chargers and the Bile Titans. It's not going to be killing them super fast because it's a flamethrower type weapon. However, you can deal heavy damage to Chargers. You can just hit them with the Spear Gun, and you can also just burn them up with the Torture. It's a very good wombo combo against all the variants of bugs on the field. It doesn't do well against dragons or anything like that. I do understand that, but as a general concept, pairing the Spear Gun and the Torture is a really strong combo of the game on the bug front, specifically the Rupture bugs. And then taking the number 1 spot is going to be the Plasma Punisher at 0.5%. I cannot believe I'm talking about the Plasma Punisher because personally I have not used this thing in forever. However, I had my eyes open to this thing by a few other people that put it on my radar, and I started to use it against the Rupture bugs. And it's not S tier, it's not even A tier, but it is a solid freaking weapon. I basically compared it to the grenade launcher. Basically, it's a plasma grenade launcher in a lot of ways versus the Rupture bugs, and it has a little bit of a better ammo economy overall. It's not incredible because this doesn't deal nearly as much damage, but it unburrows enemies, deals solid damage against spear enemies, and again, the ammo economy is not bad if you run stuff like Supply Pack or things like that. So pairing this with another support weapon, such as a Spear Gun or something else, is going to be quite good because, again, you're going to get some medium penetration from a primary weapon, and the splash damage is pretty solid, and it has good crowd control capabilities as well. So the Plasma Punisher is not insanely good, but it shouldn't be this low on the list, but and people should be using it a little bit more versus the Rupture bugs because it is quite good. But again, it's not the most criminally underrated, but it is by far the lowest on this list personally. So my final thoughts are these weapons are all differing levels of underrated in my opinion. We got things like the Crossbow, the Purifier, and even the Scorcher in my opinion that shouldn't be underrated in my opinion. They are very solid weapons against the Rupture bugs. I understand it's kind of like power creep and some other weapons may be viewed as better, but these weapons are incredible versus the Rupture bugs. Then you got things like the Halt and the Reprimand, which are great rotational items. And again, like, I really do think that a lot of people are sleeping on the Plasma Punisher. It's quite good, better than you think against the Rupture bugs, and I would definitely give it a go. And if you want to pair it with something else like the Spear Gun or whatever. So yeah, overall, these weapons in their own right have differing levels of underrated and should be in people's rotations, or at least things people try out, because they're definitely going to be quite good against the Rupture bugs. But all right, that's all my thoughts on the most underrated weapons versus the Rupture bugs. Let me know what you guys think about this video down in the comments below. Let me also know what your favorite weapons are on this list that people are not using. Make sure you like and subscribe for more content similar to this. But anyways, I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.